Hey, welcome to episode 70 of Scar Bearers. I'm Chris D.T. Gordon. As always, it is a blessing and a pleasure to have you here with me today. And with me always, you know them and love them, Nate and Britton Barron, giving me their technological skills so I can give them to you. If you want them to help you with their post-production and music talents, you can reach out to them at Nate Barron. So, folks, we're coming back to school. We're getting ready for another school year. And as we know, kids aren't always focused on school. They have struggles that they need to deal with. And sometimes they need a little help. They need a little reminder of the good things in our lives. My message can provide that. Please contact me at linktr.ee/Chris DT Gordon or chrisdtgordon@gmail.com so I can share the attitude of gratitude tag right up there so we can help our kids pass imperfection, go for greatness, and achieve some amazing things. Well, speaking of amazing achievers, I am joined by my new friend, Anthony Bullock. Anthony, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm good, man. How you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. It's a great day. And I'm really excited to talk with you. Anthony, you and I are both speakers. We are both students of YSU, the Youth Speaker University. We work together in a mastermind.
Yes,
And
sir.
we also share the designation of having messages born out of some traumatic messes. And
Right,
so,
right.
yeah, so I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us your story and just share your message.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and backtrack just a little bit, right? One thing that you just said was, these kids are struggling through their own mess, basically, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
it's interesting because a lot of times what happens is we think that adults have it all figured out, and we don't. We don't always have it figured out. And so I don't so as a kid, you can only imagine the kind of struggles that they're going through because we go through the same ones as adults. But so prior to my traumatic incident, I have my bachelor's in accounting from Prairie View A&M University down in Houston, Texas. I got my second bachelor's degree from University of Texas at El Paso. I got that in computer information systems, and I have some military experience in the United States Navy. Spent a good 8 years in service, and after that, I ended up going to Afghanistan. So let me go ahead and separate that story really quickly.
Okay.
I was working as a software developer for Hewlett Packard. I ended up getting a contract offer from Dinosaur to go overseas to Afghanistan as a contractor in logistics, which is what I did in the military.
Okay.
So when I was over there, oh man, you can imagine you can imagine what it's like over there. And there's nothing like a good 2 o'clock alarm that's an incoming missile,
Oh,
right?
it's like clockwork.
Nothing traumatic about that, right?
Oh,
So there's that. Then, well, moving forward, I came back stateside. I got a job as a warehouse manager. Shortly after that, unfortunately, I would like to say I got let go, but I was fired.
yeah.
It happens. I'm
Yep.
no shame in my game. And after that, it was a struggle for about the next 4 months of trying to figure things out. Right, I had just had my son about 8 months before that happened. So trying to pick up the pieces and trying to find another job was already something challenging within itself in that moment.
Mhm.
And then February 29th comes, which unfortunately is a leap year. So I can't even celebrate it until 2024.
Yeah, I know exactly. I was just thinking of all the days for this to happen.
Right.
The one day that usually isn't.
Right. I like how you said that. So that day comes and I end up in a major rollover accident. I woke up the very next day. So it happened on February 29th. I woke up on March 1st and
Not
I
in the
woke
next month.
right, literally. And I woke up to, and I knew this is how I knew something was wrong. I woke up to my mom, my dad, my brother, and my wife. My mom and my dad and my brother are 9 hours away.
Oh, wow.
So when I woke up to them, I knew something was already wrong,
Mhm.
but I didn't know what. And so I remember my mom, when she walked up to me, she said, "Hey, AJ," that's what she calls me. She said, "AJ, do you know what happened to you or where you are right now?" And because I couldn't talk, I couldn't move. The only thing I could do was move my eyes from left to right to signal no.
Mhm.
And she told me at that moment that you were in a major car accident and you're in the hospital. But at that time, I still didn't know how severe anything was. And it was just moments after that when the doctor came in and said, "Mr. Bullock, you're amazing." So in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know how. He says to me, "I have good news and I have bad news." He said, "The good news is that, or excuse me, he said, the bad news is that you've broken your neck, your back, your face, ribs, skull, and shoulder.
Ooh.
You have severely damaged lungs." He said, "Now, the amazing part about this, somehow you've already been moving.
Mm.
So the anticipation of you recovering is high, but you're going to be in the hospital for an extended period of time." So they were going to put me through rehab. They were going to put me through, all these programs that were going to help me get back onto my feet, walking, having a normal life again. And what ended up happening was, I remember there was a story that I listened to, and it's kind of interesting. There was a guy named Inky Johnson who, he wanted to go to the NFL, and he had never met his father before, but he said something to me, or he said something in his message, which was, pull the other person outside of you.
Mhm.
So that night, the night before I started to walk the next day, I remembered that story, and it was, pull the other person outside of you. So when I got up the next morning, the nurse came in and she said, "Mr. Bullock, good morning." I said, "Good morning. I want to try to walk today." She looked at my mom and my wife as if, like, how can I have the audacity to think that I can walk again right now, right? Like, does he not know what just happened to him? And she looked back at me and said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes, I want to try to walk today." In that moment, she called in another nurse, and they came and sat me up, and I was able to walk 10 steps. And so this is on day 3
Mm. Wow.
that I'm up and walking again. The next day, I walked around the hospital floor one time. The day after that, I walked around the hospital floor 2 times, and then I was released from the hospital, which thankfully, that was also the day before my son's first birthday.
Oh, wow. That's phenomenal. Now, what percentage they give you for being able to walk?
That's a question I didn't even ask. And I don't even think I was too concerned with their percentage, because I think what that would have done was put me into a negative space, because the chances of it are slim to none, right?
Mhm.
So how many times do people hear slim to none and then think that it's possible?
Yes.
So for me, that wasn't even a question that I wanted to ask, because I didn't want to set myself up for a limited belief that I wouldn't be able to. There's a interesting thing about, the limiting beliefs, because everybody else around you is going to put their beliefs onto you because they don't think it's possible, and so because of that, you think it's not possible. I had every right and every reason to lay in the bed. I just broke my neck and my back, but that's not what I wanted for me. So, for anybody out there, I would honestly say, don't allow other people to put their beliefs onto you and what they think is possible for themselves onto you, because that doesn't have to be your reality.
Yeah. No, that's incredibly powerful, Anthony. And, I really appreciate you saying that. Really quick, though, I have to ask, what does it feel like to have a broken back and a broken neck?
Ooh, are we talking about the first day, or are we talking
Well,
about today?
just, I mean, I'm sure there are degrees of sensation. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, because I've never experienced that, knock on wood. So I'm just wondering, what can you tell me about it?
The one thing I would say about it is, first of all, it's a mental shock. And I say that because when it first happened, I wasn't necessarily in the right mindset to say, yeah, well, this is no big deal. I'm gonna walk again, right? So I think the first thing that happens is the mental breakdown that you initially have. And so that in itself is already painful. There was no movement that I made that didn't hurt.
Okay.
So I could have tried to turn my neck to the left slightly, and I felt a numbing vibration feeling through my entire body. And even today, I still have some of that lingering effect of if I bend my head down, or excuse me, bend my neck, and I look down a little bit, I still feel some of that numbing feeling going through my body. So I still have some of the after effects. I
Mhm.
still have the scars, and interesting enough, the scar bearers, right?
Sure.
I have the daily scars to show me that I'm blessed.
Mhm.
So I would say that the way that it feels, it's a painful feeling. It's a shocking feeling. It's it can also be liberating though, because you can still feel.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it. Because when I don't know about you, but growing up, whenever it's like quicksand, whenever you heard someone broke their neck, automatically, oh, dead. They're dead.
Right.
It's like
Right.
quicksand in movies. Oh, quicksand. Oh, they're dead. you know
Right.
and it's just such this buildup, and so you hear more and more people talking about getting, breaking their neck and surviving, and now look at you, you're able to do so much now. And so I've always just wondered, what is that like? And so, no, thank you for answering that question. Did you have to wear the halo?
So
That
I was lucky enough to not have to wear the halo.
Okay.
I was lucky enough to not have surgery. I
Wow.
mean, I was truly 100% blessed in this whole situation because I didn't have to have anything extra. It was just how fast, or how I should say, how fast is it going to take for my body to heal? And to backtrack onto your when you hear about somebody who breaks their neck and they die. I was a senior in high school. I played baseball with this guy named Jack Noyes, and rest his soul, he got caught in a pickle, and I'm not sure if you know what that is, but he got caught between third base and home, and
Mhm.
they're chasing him, trying to get him. He went to dive back into third base. The catcher had overthrown the third baseman, so the third baseman jumps up. Jack Noyes is leaning down to slide down. The guy falls down on his neck,
Oh no.
and he breaks his neck.
Mhm.
He ended up passing away about a year, 2 years later after that. And so it's one of those things where it's an eye opener. I've seen it happen to where people don't survive.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen where it happens and they survive for a little while. I was on the best side possible where I feel pain, but I'm alive.
Mhm.
So, whew,
Yeah, yeah. You and I also share that because being a survivor of necrotizing fasciitis, you hear of people passing away from it, and then people who survive initially, and then there might be some complications, and then they pass away, or they have some other effects going on. And I am, as you say, blessed to be able to do virtually everything I've been able to do before I contracted it. So
right.
yeah, there's a lot to be thankful for, definitely. And so after you were released from the hospital, again, how many days did it take you to be released from the hospital?
I was released from the hospital in 5 days, and I was walking on the third.
Okay. All right. So after you get out of the hospital, after you're discharged, what, where did you go next? I'm sure relatively slowly, but where did you go?
Well, first place was home. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
So I remember actually, the first day, or the day that I was released from the hospital, they took me on the wheelchair. My dad was pushing me, and as soon as I stepped outside, or excuse me, stepped outside, as soon as I was pushed outside,
Mhm.
I was immediately overwhelmed with, I'm going to use your word, gratitude. It was one of the most overwhelming feelings I've ever felt in my entire life, because it was one thing to be sitting in the hospital and looking outside and seeing outside. It was another thing to experience it, with my flesh, because I know that that's not how it had to turn out. It didn't have to be that way. So when I first came out of the hospital, man, I mean, I was crying. My dad was, asking me like, what's wrong? I'm just like, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I turned into a 5-year-old kid again,
Yeah.
the tears running. I had the snotty nose. It was terrible, but but I was happy.
Mhm.
And it gave me something to look forward to. But to answer your question, I remember I came home that day. I I was I had a cane that I had to use to walk with to actually get anywhere I wanted to go. I had to get assistance to actually turn my body outside of the car. And the first thing I said, I won't say the first thing, but one of the first things I said was, I have a volleyball game on Saturday. Now, now I was coaching at the time. I was coaching my niece
Mhm.
in her 3rd through 5th grade volleyball team because she was doing it. My daughter does it when she comes out here. So I was coaching them, and I said, you know what? I have a game on Saturday. I need to be there. Now, of course, everybody was saying, I don't think you should go. I think that you should stay in the house. But for me, it was, no, I need to go because somebody else might be going through something, and they need to see me going through what I'm going through and know that they can get through it. If he can do this, if he can go through what he just went through, find a way to come up here to a volleyball game of all places to be, I can get through whatever I'm going through. And that was my whole thought process. And yes, the recovery was very slow. It was days when I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do anything.
Mhm.
I would lay down at night, and in the morning when I woke up, I did not want to do anything. I did not want to move because it was just that much pain. And it's not really until I started hearing my son cry, right, where I started hearing my wife taking care of him, where it was like, I can't keep laying here.
Mhm.
I have to try to get better. I have to try and do something. It was it was tough, very difficult to actually find the strength and the courage to even try and make progress. So I would say within the first week, being at home by myself, or not by myself, but being at home out of the hospital, it was a very slow process, very slow. But like anything, you find ways to gain momentum. So when I get up in the morning, I try to make that movement. I started being able to contract my abs enough to where I could kind of sit up by myself. I used my cane, I wrapped it around my son's crib, and I started trying to pull myself up. It's just those little things that I was trying to do for myself to say, okay, you can do this. You can get up, you can sit yourself up. And then before I knew it, I would say about 4 weeks later, I was carrying my son again.
Awesome. That's great.
So so yeah, man, it very, very, very tough recovery process, but nonetheless, you take it one step at a time, literally. and
Yes.
you make it worth what it is.
Yeah. And I love how you pointed out that you hear your son crying and you hear your wife, needing help. And it's, sometimes that's the greatest motivator. It's not, I need to do this for me. I need to do
Mhm.
this for someone else.
Right. And that's a huge portion of everything. You know how easy it is to give up on yourself?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
It's so easy to give up on yourself when you don't have someone else who's counting on you. Right? When somebody else is counting on you, it makes it so much more difficult to give up because you know that they need you.
Hmm.
So yeah, man, it's being able to count on, or having somebody else count on you is a huge motivator for me, at least, right? To do the best that I can. There's a quote that I quote all the time by Aristotle, and he says the last part of it is, excellence is a habit, not an act. Or therefore, excellence is not an act but a habit,
Hmm. Yep.
right? That's what it's really all about. Once you start to have those people count on you, or once you recognize that people are counting on you and that they need you, your perspective changes completely.
Yeah. And it becomes, the more you do it, it becomes more like it's ingrained in you. It becomes part of your identity.
Right.
And so I think that's, thinking about that, that's what makes you such a great speaker, is because it's part of who you are.
Right.
You know?
It's literally a part of my DNA. I can't think of a time where I thought about only me ever. I've never been that person. I've never been the person to focus on what I needed. I've always been the person worried about somebody else and what I can do to help somebody else. And as cliche as it sounds, right? Nobody really thinks that there's people that are like that, but there are genuinely people out there who care about other people more than they care about themselves.
Mhm.
And I think that's when you're able to take yourself to another level once you understand that it's not just about you.
It's not.
Somebody else needs your message, somebody else needs your story, because you're not the only one going through whatever you're going through. And
Oh
somebody
yeah.
needs to hear how you did it.
Mhm.
Know that it's okay to hurt. Know that it's okay to be human. Know that it's okay to cry. Know that it's okay to feel anxiety, right? It's one of those things. It's
It's yeah, I know a lot of people, they live in this mentality of, I'm just an island, I'm all by myself. And especially given this past year and a half, what all we have faced. But no, we are social beings. And
Mhm.
the more we can reach out to people and connect with people, and you're right, out of 7+ billion people, there's someone else who's facing the same thing you are.
Right.
So you can use that to motivate yourself to try to help them out. And so after you have begun your recovery process and you're feeling yourself being motivated by your wife and your son to get up and do something, and I know I'm probably skipping ahead a bit, but where does your need to start speaking fall into place?
So I had always wanted to be a speaker. I had always wanted to speak, but it goes back to thinking that you don't have a message, so nobody's going to listen to you anyway.
Mhm.
You don't have a story to tell. God gave me my story. He brought me out of it. That's that's when I realized that okay, this is the time. He gave me an opportunity. He gave me my story. Now you have to get out there and actually start speaking. And so I would say the accident was February 29th. I would say in August is around the time when I started saying, you know what, I have to make the switch. I have to make the switch. What are we going to do to start speaking? September, I made the decision. That's when I joined Toastmasters. And I started talking about competing, which I'm competing now in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest,
And you're doing
right?
very well too.
Yes, and oh man, I'm so thankful. As a matter of fact, I have a competition tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening. So
Good luck.
thank you, I appreciate it. And so it it was in September of last year when I said, I'm making the decision. I'm going to be a speaker. I'm going to put myself in a situation to be the best speaker that I can. I know that I don't have the tools and the resources right now to be the best speaker, so I need to find a way to do that, which is why I joined Toastmasters, because it put me in a circle of people, in a network of people who are already doing it. And I think that's one of the most interesting things is that when we make a decision, we don't do what we're not intentional about where we need to go and what we need to do in that decision to become who we want to be. So when I made that decision, it was like a snap of a finger. And that's how I've always been. When I make a decision, I make a decision. That's just what it is. I'm moving forward with it. Moving past that, I started figuring out that okay, I want to speak to our youth. So I actually had my first engagement in front of some middle school and high school students at a FCA meeting down in Killeen, Texas, and that's where I'm originally from. It wasn't until January or February when I said, okay, I know I want to speak to the youth, but I need somebody who's speaking to them already that I can kind of, piggyback off of, learn the business side better, see some people who are already doing it, get into a network of people who are already doing it, trying to doing it. And that's what led me to YSU. And so it was about being intentional about what I wanted to do once I made the decision to be a speaker in September.
Yeah, I really like how you said, you need, a lot of people want to do things, but it's that intention that sets some apart from others.
Right.
We all want to be the best at whatever that is, but being able to put that first foot forward and make that first step so intentional that there's no way you can retract it. That's what separates, the haves from the have-nots, to borrow a phrase. And so you joined Toastmasters, you joined YSU. What was, and I guess I want to go back to that first speaking engagement with those middle and high schoolers. What was going through your head as you were beginning your speech?
Remember your first line. Remember your first line. Right. They always say the opening is the biggest part. So I mean, that honestly, that was the first thing that was going through my head. It was remember the first line, everything else will flow. Right. That's my biggest thing. And I do that today. Even when I'm practicing now, I say remember the first line. Everything else follows after that. You practice enough, you know it. You just have to get started. So once I get that first line, it's magic. That's what I'm gonna call it. Right. I'm not saying I'm the number one, but I'm gonna say I'm not the number one yet because I'm big on speaking into existence. But the first thing that was going through my mind was get the first line out. Remember the first line, everything else flows from there. And to piggyback on what you were saying about taking that first step and being intentional, I think it's interesting because a lot of times we think that first step has to be huge, right? Like it has to be this big move in order for it to actually come to fruition when really it's nothing more than, a bunch of crumbs in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's nothing but a bunch of crumbs and you don't even know which crumb to pick up. Yeah. What crumb do I pick up first to start? So I mean, it's the first step is literally the hardest step, but not even that. I would say that your first 10 steps are the hardest steps because once you pick up the first one, you have to want to pick up the second one and you have to want to pick up the third. And you have to realize that you're going to be picking up crumbs for a while before you actually find a chunk of the cookie.
Yes.
Right. Not even the entire cookie, a chunk of it. Right. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about the process is knowing that I'm going to find chunks along the way that are going to make the whole. So yeah. So the first thing to answer your question, remember your first line, everything else flows.
As a student of Taekwondo, whenever I'm practicing my forms, I think that as well. I think, okay, what's the first move? As long as I get that first move, the others will come, afterwards, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's very funny that you said that because I was actually last night, I was at practice and I was going through some forms and I thought, okay, I'm doing this form. What's that first move? And it's just like, oh yeah, there I do this and then I do that and then I do this and so on and so forth.
Right. It becomes muscle memory, right?
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
Because you do it enough, you do it so many times that it creates that muscle memory. I don't want to say practice makes perfect. Practice, and I heard this from somebody else. I'm not trying to make this sound like it's mine, right? But practice makes permanent.
Yes.
If you do it enough times and you practice your craft over and over and over again, once you do the first thing, everything flows. And it's one of the things that they do in basic training, right? They teach you the steps and then they put you in hostile environments. So that way you've already done the steps to complete the mission. It's just a matter of you taking the first step and then doing the second one and then doing the third. And it's all a part of muscle memory, that repetition over and over. It sucks. I'm not going to try to make it seem like it's this grand, story, this grand scheme. No, it's grueling. It's a grueling process sometimes. But you have to want that.
Yes, that is key. And I think also to as you said, piggyback on that, when you are practicing, you need to practice with intention. because
Right.
it is so easy just to go through your lines. Okay. And then I talk about this and I talk about that. And I talk about this. When you get in front of people, you're only going to do what you know how to, what to do. And if you practice lazily, if you practice in a mumbling state, that's what you're going to come up with, because that's all you know.
Right. Let's talk about the speaking really quick. I don't know exactly how you practice your speaking or anything like that, right? I cannot think of an hour where I have not ran through my speech twice in my head. I'm not always verbally saying it out loud, but there hasn't been an hour of my day where I haven't said I won't even say the whole thing, where I haven't gone over a piece of the speech and saying, okay, how does this go? Can I add something here? Or should I take away from here? I'm consumed with it, right? I have another job, but I'm so consumed with making speaking my career that I've become obsessed with the process. And so I understand that in order for me to be the number one speaker, I have to act like the number one speaker. I have to do what the number one speaker is doing already. I have to show those qualities and traits. Are they going over their speech twice an hour in their head? I don't know. It's what I would do as the number one speaker in the world.
Yep.
And so I think what it is kind of creating that image in your head already of what you think number one is. What do you do when you get to number one, and then how do you stay number one? That's really what it comes down to for me.
That is a challenging mindset to have, but I think that's the kind of mindset you need if you're going to be number one. You have to challenge yourself, because when you get, if you ever get to number one, and I think you will, the way you work, no one else is going to be able, unless someone else does what you do, no one else is going to be number one. So you have to keep pushing yourself as hard as you can. And to answer your question, I don't go through my entire speech twice an hour, but I definitely run through aspects of it. I go through different parts, whether it's the beginning or, if I run through transitions. I think, like when you're writing an essay, transitions are really important, because you have to make sure you're bringing the audience along.
Right.
And so you work on your transitions. I'm thinking about, okay, how many slides do I want? If I want a slide deck.
Right.
So I'm constantly thinking about it as well. And as you have, I also have a full-time job. And so it's, being able to compartmentalize what I'm thinking of and what I'm working on.
Right. I think, for the both of us, because you have a family as well. Right. And so I think it's very difficult sometimes to actually find that balance. Right. And you've been on calls on Monday mornings. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person at all. I just know that if I want to be where I want to be at, I need to become a morning person. It's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock in the morning where I'm at, but on the other side of the world, they've already gone through half of their day. So it's just kind of, finding the balance and finding what works for you also, because I know that I want to be number one, right? But not everybody wants to be number one, right? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's really just kind of where I am. But if you don't want to be number one, what do you want to be? And then once you decide and define what you want to be, then you have to do whatever it takes to make it happen. You can't make excuses about why you can't be this or why you can't be that. No, I'm not saying that there's not people who go through circumstances and who don't deal with things. I deal with things. We're all human. But how do you handle it to get to the next spot, to get to the next step? It's these building blocks that we have to put together to build the empire, or to build the skyscraper, or if you just want the 2-story house. It's just whatever you want to do, you just have to find a way to put those pieces together and make it happen.
Yeah. And you also need the blueprints for that design. And so you have to also make sure setting up yourself for success, no matter what success is for you.
Right. And I think so. It's interesting that you say blueprint, right? Because you can't live in a house without a blueprint. You can't work in a skyscraper without the blueprint, because then they can't build the building. And I think what happens a lot of times, even initially starting out, there was no plan. There was no schedule of events that was taking place. It was a scattered plan, a scattered group of tasks that I knew I wanted to get done. And it wasn't until I started to put together what I'll call a success list of what I wanted to do in the next 6 months, what I wanted to do in the next 9 months, what I wanted to do in the next 12 months. Okay, I want to be the number one speaker in this competition. What do I have to do? And then I can list my tasks from there, and I can actually build something out that leads me to the goal, rather than just having a bunch of tasks thrown together. Now I'm picking and choosing what I want to do, and that might not be progress, right? Like, you can make progress and not move anywhere.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's kind of one of the things that we have to focus on as not only speakers, but just as humans, in general, is understanding that progress doesn't always equal movement, because you can make progress and not be doing anything that's going to put gains into your bucket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also knowing when to say no.
Oh, that's
I
huge.
feel that, as starting out, especially, you want to say yes to everything because you're hoping that everything will work. But pretty soon you're going to find out that not every, online course or every little trick of the trade is going to work for you. And so being able to say no frees you up for saying yes to something else that is most likely better for you.
Right. I also think that when you say yes so much, you look almost desperate in a sense, right? Because you're saying yes to anything because you have no plan, you have no direction in where you're trying to go. So you're saying yes to everything and anything, whether it fits you or not. You just want to get out there and do it. And I understand the mentality behind it, but that equals no movement. So yeah, I agree with you 100% on being able to say no and knowing when to say no. So yeah, I'm 100% behind you on that one.
All right. So going back to your journey now, you're in YSU, you're in the Toastmasters. This current competition, how did that start? Because as we're talking right now, you are in the regional championships, or
So I'm in the district level right now. It's
district
the
level?
fourth, yeah, it's the fourth round out of 7.
Okay.
So now how did that come about? Once again, I became obsessed. In September, when I joined Toastmasters, I just so happened to be searching the website, and I saw speech competition. Immediately, I was intrigued, simply because I'm just a competitive person. I've played sports my entire life. So when I saw a contest and I'm trying to do, I'm trying to speak and give speeches, what better way to increase my skill by competing against others who I know have already been doing this, right? There's already great speakers who are out there, and I've watched some of their videos over and over and over again because I want to be better than them. And it's almost in a sense that, right, like I said, I'm competitive. I can't help it. It's part of my nature. And sometimes I feel like I'm Bill Belichick watching all this film. They don't know I'm watching, because the Patriots did that for a while. I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but they were watching other teams practice and getting film. Were they supposed to be doing it? No. I can go on YouTube and watch any video I want. Nobody can say anything to me about it, but it's about becoming obsessed with that. So when I found out about the competition, I immediately said, I want to do that. I went back to my club and I said, how do I become a contestant in the international speech competition? And they laid out the steps for me. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do then. And I need somebody who can help me get to that point, because I'm not doing this for fun. I'm not doing it for giggles. I'm leaving out a word there intentionally.
Appreciate it.
Right? Like I literally watch these videos now, and I almost feel like I'm there sometimes. Like to the point to where I can see myself on the stage that these guys were on.
Mhm.
And that's a huge part for me. And I don't know if you've heard about, I'm sure you have, where you have to visualize your success.
Oh, yes.
Visualize what you want, which is why I'm so big on speaking things into existence. I visualize myself on the international stage already. I've seen myself accept the first place award. I've seen myself accept the first place award in every competition that I've competed in. It's just who I am. It's not, some people would say, oh, well, that's arrogance or that's you being cocky. Why would I want to see myself take second?
Yeah, I find that funny that people would place that label on you, because if if the point is to win, why would you not want to see yourself win?
Right. It's one of the interesting things because you see it all the time when people are saying things like, oh well, I want to do whatever it is. I want to be the starting quarterback for whatever NFL team, right? Have you ever dreamed about it? Well, no. Do you enjoy doing it? Sort of. I mean, why are you doing it then?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're not 100%, I want to say 100, 120%, because sometimes when that 20% lacks and you don't want to do something, you're gonna need that extra to be kicking in at some point.
Mhm.
So I just think it's interesting for some people to not want to see themselves as great. And it goes into, this is a different topic for a different day, maybe, but when you're in a bad environment, a lot of times that's all you see. And so that's all you become.
Mhm. And I think also, I'm not sure if you ever heard this story of, I can't remember what kind of crabs they are, but there are these crabs that if you catch them, you put a little bait in the trap, and the crabs will go down and go down and eat the bait, and then one will try to escape. The others will pull the crab back
Oh,
into the
wow.
trap to the point where they will kill it eventually if it doesn't stop trying to get out. And so those people who are questioning, well, why are you so arrogant if you want to take first, are trying to keep you back because they want you in with them.
Right. It's almost,
And misery loves company, basically.
oh, yeah, no, 100% agree. It's almost like it goes back to the limiting beliefs because you can't see yourself being in first place. So you can't see me being in first place, but I am not you.
Mhm.
Don't put your beliefs onto me because I see something completely different than you do. And it's fine if you don't think that you can be. It's fine if you don't think I can be, right? That's fine if you don't think that. I think something higher of me. I think that I can do it, therefore I will do it. So yeah, man, I like to say I'm a different breed.
You know what? It that makes the world go around.
Right, 100%. Somebody's got to be the champion, right? Why not
Exactly.
me?
Yeah. Well, obviously, best of luck to you. And besides the competition, what else do you have going on? Well, obviously, you're looking for speaking opportunities.
Right,
Are
right.
there any highlights in the horizon for you right now?
So let's see. Coming up, I would say in the next month or so, I'll be giving another presentation for an FCA group that's out here in El Paso. I'm working on some gigs, some possible potential gigs out in Utah. I think you might even be familiar with those as well.
Mhm.
So once again, man, it's finding the opportunities and putting yourself in place to get them. Right? I don't know what the future holds, but I know what I'm trying to make it.
Mhm.
So so yeah, man, that's where I'm at. I'm speaking at the FCA out here, looking at these gigs in Utah, and the game never stops.
Nope, that's a great thing to remember, because if it did, then what's the point?
Right.
Yeah, there's always someone who needs you. Remember, 7 billion plus people out there. Someone needs that story.
Right.
So,
100%.
so Anthony, where can people find you?
So they can find me on Facebook. My name is Anthony Bullock on Facebook. If they want to look for me on Instagram, it's ab.motivates. And on Twitter, it's ab.motivates as well.
Excellent. And so if you were to leave one nugget of wisdom for those searching for a crumb or two to help them on their own journeys, what would you say to them?
I would say to them that your problems are your circumstances, not your reality. It's so easy to get caught up in believing that when things go wrong, they have to stay wrong. Or when something goes wrong, there's got to be something else bad coming along with it. It doesn't have to be that way. Your problems are your circumstances, meaning that they're going to come and go. But you can make your reality something completely different. Don't allow other people to put their limiting beliefs on you. Don't allow other people's fear to consume you. Don't allow other people to shift you away and move you away from where you're headed.
That's quite the nugget there, Anthony. So I greatly appreciate it. I think that that belongs on a shirt. Because I think that so many people, they feel that where they're at right now, that's their future.
Right.
I mean, if both of us believe that, we definitely wouldn't be where we are right now.
Absolutely, man.
So, all right, I need to ask the question. What is your favorite dinosaur?
You know what? It's interesting that you asked me that. I actually did some research on dinosaurs.
Really?
I was looking at raptors because that was Jurassic Park. I saw the raptors and I said, that's what I want to be. And then I did some research and I found out that that's not what raptors are.
Nope. They, for to his credit, Michael Crichton did the best that he could. But, the research has found that actually the raptors we were watching on Jurassic Park are actually called Deinonychus.
Yes.
So yeah, it's quite crazy.
Yeah. So initially that would be my answer as a raptor until I realized that it's not portrayed correctly. So I would have to say, at this point, T-Rex, because I want to be the biggest, the baddest, and the best. I want to be feared, not in a bad way, but in this speaking thing, I want people to say, "Oh, Anthony's coming. I can't wait to hear him." Who else is coming? Doesn't matter. We want to hear Anthony. That's who I would say. T-Rex all the way, man.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, I know we chat at least every week on Monday mornings, but it was a pleasure to just chew the fat with you on this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a great pleasure for me.
Oh man, thanks for having me. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Definitely. I would definitely love that. And so folks, remember, your problems are your circumstances, not your future. They're not your, what was the word, Anthony?
Reality.
They're not your reality. They are only a moment in time. Okay. You make your reality, your actions, your thoughts, what you put in your head and you exude out your body. That's what you make your reality. So make sure you make it the most positive, the most impactful, the most beneficial for yourself and for others that you can. So if you are looking for a speaker, you know where Anthony is now. You can find me at linktr.ee/Chris DT Gordon. Please also email me at chrisdtgordon@gmail.com. And when you're there at Linktree, you can find the YouTube channel and the podcast. Please like, subscribe, rate, and share. Share these episodes because, like Anthony's message, there are so many that need to hear those positive, inspirational tales that will help them break out of their current situations. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining me. Please have a great day. And remember to pass on perfection and go for greatness.